Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and I'm looking at Bricky's every single Warhammer 40k faction explained part 1. Now, last time around we got to the Imperial Guard, and frankly, I don't know a lot about the Guard, so some of those I actually didn't know about, which is kind of embarrassing considering I have in a few other series I'm reacting to rubbed in my face that I know more about Warhammer than other franchises I've been a fan of for multiple decades. Star Wars. So, not knowing a few of the general factions for the Guard that are canon, they get used, yeah, I'm judging myself on this one. This is an entire video of here's a bunch of obvious things. Here's a few little details I can throw in, followed by, oh, shit, I didn't know that either. Yeah. Self-incrimination, everyone. It's fun. More importantly, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. Let's get started.
We can move on to talk about Space Marines.
The
Angels of Death are up next.
What was that? Did he just put a Wilhelm?
Space Marines.
It's close to a Wilhelm scream. That's usually a little higher pitched. I love it when people drop those in. It's a stupid little thing I've heard and I've noticed. The more I notice it, the more I love it. At first I thought it was stupid, now I love it. It's not a Wilhelm scream, but I will definitely take that little sound clip and use it in a random place that makes no sense.
The Angels of Death are
Like
up
the Wilhelm
next.
scream.
Space Marines are genetically engineered super soldiers and
Yep.
superhumans.
Is that supposed to be the God
They're given
Emperor?
extra
Yeah, I think so.
organs. Their skin tissue is toughened.
Just
Their
remind me, I don't
bones
know
are
these
stronger. They're taller than the average person.
They got a
They're
few
pretty
extra pieces.
Massive people, and these are the specialized super soldiers that carry out a lot of the more specific tasks for the Imperium. And there's tons of legions of them. In fact, there's one per Primarch.
White Scars Legion. See, even they don't paint it solid white because fuck the color white. No, you should never have to paint that. I say having taken a lot of effort to paint lore accurate apothecaries because sure, why not use more white paint? I'm getting triggered by white
Primarch,
paint. Wow.
the Emperor's son, as I mentioned before, oversees their legion of Space Marines.
Or more so helped found it? Or more so helped found it. What? I'm sorry, I'm having an English breakdown right now, apparently.
Mark, the Emperor's son, as I mentioned before, oversees their legion of Space Marines. The genetic upgrade...
or helped found as in founding, as in creating, not found as in finding them. I don't know why, but for some reason I legitimately could not make that connection mentally, which is weird considering foundings are not an unusual term in 40k. I'm just going crazy, apparently.
Grade they get is based on the genes of said Primarch. It's something called a gene seed. That's what brings them up to this like superhuman level. As stated, each Primarch has their own legion. Robot Girly Man has the Ultramarines. Jagatai Khan has the White Scars. Rogel Dorn has the Imperial Fists. Corvus Corax has the Raven Guard. And there's a whole bunch of other sides.
Honestly, I'm a little surprised he didn't make any jokes about how... And Lehman Russ has a bunch of wild corgis. It's the usual joke, but at this point, I kind of like it.
Sections that are also extremely interesting and have a little bit more of a twist on the average.
Not to mention the loyalists from the Traitor Primarchs.
Humorously enough, I don't have a whole lot to say about Space Marines. They're superhumanly fast. In fact, it's been said that nothing that large should move that quick. These men in power armor moving at blazing fast speeds. Their reflexes are faster. Their skin is tougher. They are overall just extremely powerful soldiers. In fact,
this is something that is established 40k. But it's kind of how the Space Marines are the best of the best. But then there's a dozen other factions who are further bester, a best on top of bestery. It's like saying something that large shouldn't move that fast. But then you have literally everything that's not armor that is bigger than a normal human is also usually fast. This is just an internal 40k thing I bitch about because size doesn't mean small. In fact, huge things in 40k usually go faster. Biological things, a lot of that's the Tyranids. It's one of those things in 40k that just bugs me because it's stupid how they present it. The transhuman shock is just slightly off-putting. But also, it's just an established fact. Just take it the same way you take Psychers. I don't know why space magic that eats your soul isn't the part that gets me, but these people look slightly different and they're bigger, so it scares you in a fundamental way that affects everybody. I just chalk it up to a psychic effect and leave it at that. It's not actually spelled out that way, but this is a part of the lore. It is legit. Bricky's accurately describing it. I just think it's a stupid part of the lore as it's described.
Where they differ comes down to which Space Marine Legion we're talking about. For instance, the Ultramarines done by Robot Gilliman are the main blue boys. Strong in almost every way, the jack of all trades kind of group that are a little bit too strong, and that's a lore problem, but the White Scars by Jagatai Khan are all about speed freaks, go fast. We're talking attack bikes, we're talking land speeders. You want to go in quick, you want to hit them hard, you want them to be swarming around like buzzflies.
Yep.
Buzzsaws.
Buzzsaws? Flying buzzsaws?
The speed of buzzsaws.
You know, he's misspeaking here, but he makes a good point. If you're moving as fast as a buzzsaw spins, or you're just throwing buzzsaws at someone as your attack wave, that is terrifying, and I would completely surrender to that.
Fuck you, Pale King.
Oh, he's repressing something.
Fire in the forge, fire in battle. Flamers, melta-guns, multi-meltas. Just so long as something can be burning, that's big. And they're also actually some of the nicest of the Space Marines. A lot of Space Marines have this kind of like holier-than-thou thing because of their genetic strength.
That is a... He's not wrong. He's definitely not wrong. I'm not even going to hint that anything about what he said is wrong. Everything he just said is accurate, especially because I'm not sure he'll get this deep into the lore, but one of the various processes, well, I guess traditions is more like it, for the Salamanders is when they're taken from their home, they go back. They will go back to the family and watch over as their family, if it still exists, and they're not the only son or the only daughter. If more people come, they will watch over their family and their clan as it progresses through the centuries and be welcome parts of it. Basically like the patron who left the family but always watches over them. That is actually a part of Salamander's lore. They have families outside of their brothers in the Space Marines. That is so freaking cool because it's something that, frankly... depending on I don't maybe the Space Wolves follow that one. That's I haven't looked up to them much. Some people have intimated that, but I'm not sure if that's canon or if that was just their own personal fan. So I could be completely off on them. Oddly enough, as much as I actually do enjoy Russ's sons, I don't know very much about them. Huh. That's weird now that I think about it.
However, the Salamanders tend to put human lives above the lives of themselves, which is actually rather rare. They're also all black, but not like just regular black, like 2 a.m. line at a White Castle black. Like they have a...
I've never been to a White Castle. I have literally no idea what he's talking about. I'm assuming he's just all burned.
Charcoal.
Oh, I just noticed that his teeth are also black. Oh, and you can see that through the cheek. That is very hard to look at. Oh.
Dark, ashy exterior and blazing red eyes.
Yeah.
Apparently something about living on their home planet of Nocturne, which
psychic
I don't know if that
bullshit.
makes much sense, but who cares?
Psychic bullshit. Just leave it up to psychic bullshit.
Overall, Salamanders are actually one of my personal favorite legions because they're just really cool. They're fun to play as because of all their flamer weapons, and they have a nice, like, more heartwarming lore as opposed to being super evil like everyone else is. Oh my God.
I mean, honestly, this is something he brought up, and people were like, no, they're all evil. I'm going to say something that I know people disagree with because they very, very much disagree with me in the last one. I don't think everyone's evil. There's a lot of people who are evil. There's a lot of factions who are explicitly evil, and there's people in those explicitly evil factions who are also evil, but less evil or more unique evil. But there's a lot of factions that don't actually seem evil. Overall, the Imperium does evil things, but it's not evil itself. It is fucked up people trying to do good, and then a lot more people who are very much not trying because they got what they want. And sometimes the money expression is not actually that safe. Yeah, when you get into warp corruption, it gets bad. And it's not that black and white. Of course, I think it was intended that way, but especially as it's being written now, there are genuinely good people leading the factions to be genuinely good overall. Maybe not perfect. They're not white knighting anything here. Everyone has their own fuck-uppery, but they're not evil. I'm going to disagree with Bricky on that one because especially in some of the newer writing, and I'm not just talking within the last year, I'm talking since 8th edition came out. Since Gilliman returned, it's not just people. It's we are the good guys, but also we have a lot of bad guys. I would talk about prior to that, but I never played anything, and the only one that ever interested me as a specific edition was Rogue Trader, just because of how weird it is. If it was like that in anything from 2nd edition to 7th, I haven't paid attention, so I could be completely right or wrong about that. I have no idea.
God, we're not even a quarter of the way through the Space Marine Legions.
Yeah.
Imperial Fists believe in the power of the siege and defensive positions. Raven Guards, master of stealth and sabotage while having bird helmets. Iron Hands, masters of machines and vehicles while being really goddamn good at being sold on eBay after one nerf. Space Wolves.
Wait, seriously? Oh, I missed that. Sorry, I will eBay snipe and just repaint things. And if there was a giant drop of Space Marines, I'm kicking myself. I even know the nerf he's talking about. I didn't think to take advantage of that. That's on me. That's just disappointment.
Vikings and wolves and tons of wolves and
Wolf Vikings.
And axes, battle axes, fur everywhere. Space wolves, angry, big teeth. Blood angels, the genetic defect to make them want to drink blood and go crazy, called the Red Thirst. They have.
Yeah, I know he's just going quickly, but it's just one of the random things. They're basically the vampires, but other than the color red, you never really get anything showing it that they are the space vampires. But the noble space vampires, except for the ones who aren't, who may also still be, but that's flesh terrors, man. Take your pick. They're not bad. They're actually very interesting, but noble is debatable.
Cupid wings and stuff, which is a little bit strange, and they are all super gay for Sanguinius. Dark Angels
but everyone was.
Old school knights and inner circle theme and.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's just perfectly described exactly what they are. And I'm going to say something contentious. Skipping over them is probably the best way, because every time you learn more about them, you realize it's literally just either ass covering from themselves, the things that probably don't matter anymore, or they're hinting at things that do matter, but then you never find out because the lore will not give you definitive answers of, oh, by the way, we have this thing that is actually terrible, justifying us being secretive. It's more just the guys who create a secretive cult amongst their friends, who only told their friends, and what they do is they go to their clubhouse and hang out secretively amongst their friends in their secret clubhouse, even though it's the same clubhouse they were in before. Have I mentioned everyone I'm describing is 5 years old? It's that level of needed secrecy, because every single chapter deals with the same level of bullshit they do. At least this has been shown. Every now and again, there's a little bit of here and there that, ooh, this is kind of secretive and should be secret, and it's destroyed, so it doesn't matter. I have a love-hate relationship with the Dark Angels. They don't have a reason to be secretive other than they like it. Yeah!
Are you a heretic?
Me? No, never. Once in a blue moon, I know.
Death Watch, a fancy anti-Xenos group that nobody plays because Death Watch, and they look cool though, but no one plays them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even in the time, I heard they got good briefly, and then he became accurate again because they suck. Which is unfortunate, because I love their shoulder pads. I know that's a weird thing to say, and I know I could just buy the upgrades through and put that on shoulder pads, because canonically, you can take those back to your Legion, so I could put them in, but it just reminds me that such a simple, cool-looking addition is not usable. Sorry, I love their entire design, and I hate that they're horrible.
About Death Watch, they're there though. Black Templars, for the people
also
who,
really cool
if
design.
You haven't prayed at least 3 times a day, you're gonna start praying out that airlock, and I'm sure there's some other chapters I may have missed as well,
swords.
like Crimson
Looks cool.
Fist and stuff. But those are the main ones right here. Here, quote from the Emperor himself: "They shall be my finest warriors. These men who give of themselves to me. Like clay I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war I shall forge them. They shall be of iron will and steely sinew. In great armor I shall clad them, and with the mightiest weapons shall they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease. No sickness shall blight them."
You sure about that? I think there's a few Death Guard who, I mean, they gave in because that did not turn out to be true. Yeah.
They shall have such tactics, strategies, and machines that no foe will best them in battle. They are my bulwark against the terror. They are my defenders of humanity. They are my space marines, and they shall know no fear. And on the...
One? Really? He went to these guys? Interesting design, and then they fell short. The Reavers, they're just bad. They're really bad. Just don't let your friends play Reavers. It's an embarrassment. I like how, in hindsight, I've heard that quote so many times and never really thought to sit down and think, oh, all of this is bullshit. With the exception of Feel No Fear, because I think they genetically have the pieces of them that could feel fear removed from them. But the rest of it, they have tactics. Well, they have things they call tactics sometimes. Sometimes it's the codex. Sometimes it's charge. That's more of a Rust thing. But it depends on the chapter how much of that is true. And I kind of like that it isn't a solid thing. And again, it does fit into the idea that it's an overview. It's not everything in 40k. It's most things in 40k. So it makes a little more sense. I'm probably losing the ball here, but basically what I'm saying is we have these grand, large statements that say, here is the thing. And then you go into the particulars as you go down. And then, well, here's really what it's like. But it's kind of like this. But then there's another case of it's kind of like this. But they all lead back into the grand statement framing the world. And everything is something either acknowledging it and saying it's wrong, or completely going its own way that's so out of left field. You almost believe it's propaganda and completely intentionally wrong. And it could be, because that is a thing GW does.
Tabletop, they fuck. Oh, they fuck hard. As
Except
of
for when they
making
don't.
this video, Space Marines are laughably strong. That might change at some point, but overall, Space Marines just have...
How long ago was this? 3 years? In the time he has made that, they have become the strongest, the weakest. Okay, the weakest, the strongest, horribly overdone, but everyone plays them, so they still have a good win rate too. Oh shit, we just found a good way to make them actually play well. And that's just within the last 3 years. As far as balance goes, it's a good idea to get what you like. Eventually, they'll be strong. You just need to play when they're strong.
It's like a Swiss Army knife,
Still need to grab a few of
tool
these.
for anything you need, except it's like a gold-plated Swiss Army knife. It is extremely
The gold
strong.
makes it
If you
a
are
little sharper.
actually getting into the tabletop of
unless you
Warhammer,
use actual
Space
gold.
Marines are a great start. Also, whatever gameplay style you have, whether you want to be sit back...
Okay, just going to throw it out there because it's important if you're actually starting an army based on this video. 1, watch the original. 2, the big advantage, the Space Marines, is that if you drop them, they don't shatter. There are so many factions that have tiny little spindly things. You drop them, they will catch on something. They will somehow manage to rip into 5 different pieces. I'm not just saying that because I looked at a Mechanicus model once and I knew I would destroy it by breathing heavily and maybe blinking aggressively. You need to understand how to magnetize a model to not destroy some of these armies. Especially because GW's prints have become more spindly, but also way more detailed and fancy, and frankly justifying the cost in some cases, not all of them. So you need to know what you're doing not to destroy your own models. It is a thing. Or to paint so hard that they rip pieces off. Space Marines are generally not that flimsy, not as much as some models, but they're a good starting point because you won't destroy your own shit by accident.
With long range and heavy weaponry, go fast and run in, or even just full melee.
Yeah.
All of these options are totally
Melee's
there for
horrible,
you.
but I still
Space
like doing
Marines are super badass. But unfortunately, it's time we start praying to our new god, the 2011 Honda Civic.
What? Why is it a Honda Civic? I legitimately do not understand the reference other than, no, it's not specialized. It seems more like a Volkswagen where everything is super expensive and detailed and intricate and it will fuck you up. Speaking of models that if you drop them or look at them too aggressively, they will break. We're about to see that entire faction.
So is it any wonder people are afraid of technology?
Technology!
What is that from?
The Adeptus Mechanicus.
Yeah.
The Adeptus Mechanicus
Spiky.
are a technophile cult on Mars. Now, these people are a little bit weird because they don't actually really believe in the Emperor of Mankind. And you might think, oh, whoa, Bricky, that sounds like some heresy.
They technically are committing heresy, which is something that 40k never acknowledges, because they have their own religion that is completely different, but acknowledges that the Emperor is the Omnissiah, as opposed to the God Emperor. But technically, it is a different god they're worshiping. It is technically heresy. They just overlook it because hypocrisy is a thing.
A little bit. They believe in the Emperor. They believe in his power.
Yep.
But they don't pray to him. They pray to something called the Omnissiah. And the Omnissiah is this kind of machine god that they believe permeates in all machines. And if you think...
That is something that when you just take, it's like, okay, this is crazy. That's the initial take. When you're looking at something like this, what Bricky's doing, this is low-level introduction. You think, that's crazy. That can't be the case. But then you get further into the Warhammer, it's like, okay, well, they're talking about the God Emperor. That's what they mean by Omnissiah, because he tricked them into it. And that is also the case. He did do that. But then you get a little further down the rabbit hole, and you see things that came out in 10th edition that I've just been told about, were the humans... Why did I say it that way? I was going to say Guela, that I switched to humans the last second, and I just fucked up the word. The Guela, the humans who have gone for the Tau side, didn't understand that the greater good, the Tau worship, isn't actually worship, so they worship the greater good as if it's a actual god, and because they did, they actually birthed the god. That is just in the short time span of maybe however long the Tau have been around and taking humans on. They already made a god based on their belief. One, that's a lot faster than I thought would happen to create a god, considering the God Emperor still has a physical body, so there's something going on there. And two, even if it's a weak god, they did it. The Tau have a god of the greater good because humans did it. Second time they've accidentally made a god in this system, or, well, yeah, in 40k in general. It's weird that it happened, just, yeah, it did. But that's the point. The entire Mechanicus, both sides of it, who believed in the Omnissiah, were human, believing in this. It's always kind of treated as if they're technically wrong. But then you see how humans created a god so easily. There is definitely a god they created, because there is no way for that much worship not to go to a god, unless you take the even weirder rabbit hole where it's not actually a god. They've been praying to the Void Dragon, who there is a Satan model for, and it actually looks freaking amazing. As in, I kind of want it because I don't play Necrons, but I want that model because it's so freaking cool. Him and Drazen. But that is the shard of the Star God, the Catan, that did technology, and may or may not have also been the parade. Like the basic idea of a dragon that St. George killed, and the God Emperor may or may not have been St. George, and the telling just got really fucked up. That's also out there. I think that's more fanon, but also it's really hard to find certain references, and with how the Emperor kind of could be anyone, he could be anyone, because they don't really know where he came from or when, so he could be much younger or older than we know. We don't know. Yeah. Rabbit holes, man. If there's probably an iceberg video on this, I would definitely look at it, just because there's a lot.
Well, wait a minute. They believe in a different god as well? That sounds like super heresy. Well, yes-ish, but...
Hypocrisy?
They also make all your guns, and they make all your tanks,
and
they make everything that you have?
Yep.
So you can't really tell them to fuck off?
Also, that thing in the background would be, I think, an Imperator Titan. You don't tell those things to fuck off unless you're a Primarch, specifically certain ones who could toss him around, which Angron did, even though he's probably the dumbest. He's the one who did that. Magnus, who psychicked it away. Oh, why is all the traitor Primarchs who managed to take on Titans? Or the God Emperor, who literally cowed the Mechanicus when he met them by fucking around with the Titans. Or at least that's one of the retellings. I'm not actually sure if that's really what happened, but no one really knows what happened. Except for Call.
Because you're not going to win nothing if you don't got stuff to shoot people with. See, their
hypocrisy
Omnissiah at least makes sense from their standpoint. They believe it to be a deity that permeates through all machines. Your Honda Civic, your standard bolt gun, your Dune Strider Walker, your...
And out of all the things he's just mentioned, I still think the Honda Civic is probably the most dangerous. I'm not just saying that because there were so many issues. But the only thing worse would be if we pulled up a freaking Subaru, man. Dear God, those things could not... I don't... Yeah, I have a bias.
Your giant mechs, your huge ships. The Omnissiah is present through all. And the only reason your stuff works is because the machine's spirit in it says it works. If you want your gun to work, your tank to run, you must pray to it. And I mean full stop. You need to start chanting in high Gothic. You need to burn incense. You need to sit on your knees and pray to that car. You need to rub oil on your robes, and you need to go ahomina, homina, 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 homina. Full stop. If you want your damn thing to work, if you want.
And the best part is, like I said, humanity created a god already. There's probably a god of this. So as stupid as this is, as dumb as this is, as obviously a joke as it is probably changed how it was interpreted. Initially, GW definitely meant it as black comedy. See how stupid they are in the future? They're doing something ridiculous. This is not real. They have regressed to the point where this kind of madness looks like it's a good idea. But GW has to change the approach where there's still a lot of that black comedy. This is one of those reasons they pulled away. So there probably is a machine spirit because they believed it into existence. And sometimes it is an AI that already exists and they just don't know. But it can be both. And that would be really weird if they just ensouled a bunch of AIs because they believed something they misunderstood was a spirit. So they made it that way because enough belief has power. Is that the case that went down? I can't say it's not because bullshit like that does happen. It's probably not, but also maybe it is. There's a lot of maybes thrown around, and that's going to keep going.
When your gun to fire, you need to do that. They are very bizarre.
The legs it shows.
They actually have a bit of a point because it's obviously working. And if you look at them, I don't know how that works. So they obviously know something about what they're doing. The most notable.
Yes. This is a difficult topic. Yes, but is the best way to describe knowledge within the Imperium. They know what they're talking about as far as they've been able to learn, but they're learning last principles, not first principles. It's kind of like, okay, do you know how to build a computer chip? Okay, you have a bunch of metal connecting. Do you know how to program? Do you know how to make something smaller? Do you know what the difference between an Intel Core i9, 1400, 900, whatever, 1500, whenever that comes out, versus the IBM that first came out when Apple making a potato commercial was considered revolutionary? Well, it wasn't a potato commercial. It was more of a reference to 1984, but details. That is a huge variety of information most people don't know. Now, I can build myself a computer. I've done that, and it hasn't entirely killed itself yet. But I could not make a single part there. That is the situation they're working with. They have a lot of pieces they can use. Some people are legitimately smart. They're good at taking those pieces and using them. They don't innovate, because that's a dirty word unless you're Call. And then it's just not a dirty word to him. And everyone else looks at Call going, oh, dear God, what the fuck did you do? Deservedly sometimes. But they will take those pieces, change them up, smaller, bigger, adapt them to work in ways they're not supposed to, causing unforeseen side effects that they don't usually care about because it just kills off some flesh thing that doesn't matter. It doesn't have any info in it. Who cares? But that is the way they work. They're not working on first principles. They're working on secondary, third, fourth, high-end principles of these are how things work, not okay, I don't know what the fuck is leading into this working. But that's also kind of how people work now. They're just taking it, well, not 40,000 years, 38,000 years, or, well, maybe 40,000, depending on what time it actually is, into the future, and expanding that gulf of knowledge between what we have, what we're missing, and we know it came from this at some point, but they're not asking what is in between, because the general thought of it was already learned, the knowledge exists somewhere, we just need to find it, and saying you're inventing is primarily just arrogant because it already exists. You're just being an asshole because it already exists. The Omnisci already discovered it. We can find the templates. We'll refine them. We'll do that. Saying you invented it is just bullshit because you didn't actually invent it. You're just claiming someone else's invention because the Omnisci was someone else. And then you're talking bad about God. I'm getting into this here, but that is legitimately how their entire faction works on a psychological basis, with a lot more on top of that. But that's a very small faction that actually works that way, and it's kind of fascinating.
A notable member of the Adeptus Mechanicus is Archmagos, whatever, Belisarius Call. Look at it.
He is unique.
Look at this dude. Yeah. This is the group we're talking about.
Yeah.
These are these weirdos. Here, the Omnissiah Creed. The credo, Omnissiah. There is no truth in flesh, only betrayal. There is no strength in flesh, only weakness. There is no constancy in flesh, only decay. There is no certainty in flesh, but death.
Yep.
Flesh is weakness, flesh is death. The Omnissiah is the god of the machines, and if you wish to be whole, if you wish to be holy, if you wish to give unto him, you must saw down your limbs and remove your organs and replace them with mechanical parts, because that is what he wants, and that is how you will become enlightened. Hard technophiles mixed with religious extremism.
Yeah.
This Mechanicus. Now for...
Yeah. Part of the reason they're like that, though, is because they came from Forge worlds and planets that were destroyed. Their technological base was breaking down. A lot of the places, like Mars, for example, their life support was breaking down. So the people who had knowledge were the only people who knew how to fix things. And they, over time, came to worship them. I thought that was like, okay, thousands of years. Okay, that happens over time. But someone on my Discord pointed out that no, that's not the case. This was posted on my Discord to show just how easy this is. And I'm not a technophile in the exact extent that the Mechanicus is. I'm not a tech geek. Well, I am, but not to this level. But just reading this one, I'm just going to put it on the screen now so you can read it if you want to pause. But this is the level of, hey, we're going to do this. And talking about having to ritualistically sacrifice a chicken to a piece of a machine because that's how you get it to work. It's the internet. It could be made up. But I also know a few programmers who legitimately would probably find this as an appropriate way to make things happen. So even if it's insane, people are insane, reality's insane, and if it's bullshit but it works, don't ask questions.
Things, they are with the Skitarii. The Skitarii operate with very bizarre weaponry and lots of different kinds of vehicles, tanks, and different people in between. They're very weird,
flesh is weak.
but they have extremely wacky and enjoyable, and in fact quite effective, both in the real game and in the lore, weaponry and gear. Overall, as
it does
an
look
army
cool.
on the tabletop, they're very weird and have a whole bunch of different shenanigans. But if you like kind of that quirky, wacky techno thing, I'd give them a pickup. Hell, they're so paranoid. I gotta keep going. They're so paranoid and crazy. These Dune Striders you see right here, one guy was able to make them work. One guy, and he died. And they're so scared they'll never work again that they keep them on and they never turn them off, and they run around in a circle the whole time until they need them, and then they corral it and they go into battle.
I was actually completely unaware of that bit of lore. And that is the kind of absolute what the fuckery and loss of knowledge that does kind of show what the Mechanicus is. They don't know what they're doing except for very few pieces. And as smart as some people are, they're not discovering knowledge. They're just trying to preserve what they have and sometimes reusing it, except for Call. But there's issues there. But this level of, we're going to corral the metal chickens. They're literally herding metal chickens. Oh, dear. I said that, then I realized what I said, and that it's perfectly accurate. Oh, dear God. It's true, though. Dear God, Bricky, I did not know.
Yep. The Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, if you want to talk about faith, though...
Oh, the sisters.
Let's talk about the Sisters of Battle.
A simp has fallen for an e-girl in Lego City.
I mean, yeah, that's basically what the sisters are. It's the one everyone simps over. Because if you look up their art, do not do it in public. A lot of it is classy. Let's put it that way.
The Sisters of Battle of the Adeptus.
They're also really fun to play as.
If that's how I pronounce it correctly, is an all-female group of battle sisters going through.
I just realized he's in a skirt with heels. Okay, that's what the joke is. I thought he was just a black void at first. Like, no, wait, there's something there.
Through the ecclesiarchy section of the Imperium. The ecclesiarchy is, of course, the church. This is, imagine a private army of the church.
Prior to the actual private army they had.
And it is. The sisters are an extremely zealous force, and they take this to a full extreme. They believe in three main things: faith, martyrdom, and fire. Through the Bolter, the Flamer, and the Melta, the Sisters of Battle are extremely potent at taking out Chaos and Heretics.
Yeah,
mainly Heretics,
they're actually really good at it.
Because as they are a fighting section of the Ecclesiarchy Church, that's the big thing they want to kill. Any form of heretic will face the Emperor's justice through those three main weapons, the Bolter, the Flamer, and the Melta, and they will do so with extreme prejudice.
Admittedly, if it's changed, I don't know. But out of all of those, the Bolters are standard. The Meltas can be really good because they're Meltas. And the Flamer, I'm always disappointed because they look so cool. And then they just, if there's new rules to let them work better, let me know, because that would make me feel better. As opposed to every previous edition where it's like, and you have a Flamer. You rolled a one shot. It does no damage. Thank you for wasting an entire round of shooting. Maybe that's just my rolls, but that every time, man, every time.
Literally. They are the closest things we have to nuns in space. And I'm talking hard.
No. It's not even the closest. They are explicitly nuns. This isn't even a thing. They have canonesses. They have actual sisters. They are legitimately priestly orders. They're not close to nuns in space. They are explicitly nuns in space. And admittedly, slightly less violent than actual nuns in Catholic school. I haven't been to one myself, but I have heard horror stories from my father, who still knows exactly why he will fuck with anyone except for a nun with a ruler.
Hardcore nuns. They carry holy fire on their backs.
We need more
they
models
have
like that.
holy books and sigils all across their armor. Their main battle tank is a fucking pipe organ.
3 years ago? This probably came out right before they added in the standard Predator tank. Or, well, it's not called a Predator, like not a ball Predator, but it's basically the exact same model, but they put a few extra touches on it. Also, if you want to convert it, they can probably convert really easily. But this is still the tank that's the most iconic for them. Even if they can use a lot of other things that are basically just the Space Marine model line that they just repurposed.
Missile launcher. They have small babies that they have removed their brain capacity to make them little servant cherubs to fly around and give them ammunition and shit.
Yeah.
They drop
other people have that too, and it's still creepy.
From low orbit as mini drop pods onto battles. They drop churches into battles, and they blare war hymns and holy music from their frigates in low atmosphere and shower holy water across the battlefield.
Admittedly, considering a lot of the enemies, like in this image with the actual demons, if it's backed up by true faith, which for any other faction that would be debatable, for the sisters, considering they're all explicitly zealots, this is probably actually a good tactic. Hell, even playing the music is probably a good tactic due to warp shenanigans. Is what I would say, except this came out the exact same time Bricky was making this, roughly right around the end of 8th, going into 9th, where the entire concept of faith was being separated from Psychers, from the warp in general, because of things like the Pariah Nexus, where it's like, we have the Necrons turning off souls, because apparently you could turn them on and off again. But that didn't affect people who had faith, because that was separate from the warp, even if all warp shenanigans was stopped. So, oddly enough, it's a weird case where it does kind of match how the tabletop plays it, where it's not psychic on the tabletop, but that's just a gimmick, except now the gimmick is explicitly how various writers are treating it. So, I got no idea what the fuck is going on. No idea whatsoever. He's probably in the same boat on this one, and it was the same way back then. Although, he's probably up on it, unless he made this right before Pariah Nexus came out, and it wasn't really well thought of. Because admittedly, it was an interesting story that kind of went nowhere.
These are the people you are dealing with, and they're fucking awesome.
They are.
They can literally stave off demons.
Yep.
On the tabletop, because their faith is that strong.
Can confirm it. I have done it. It is legitimately insane fact that you can do that, both with Miracle Die, and the fact that every now and again, when you bring up a random sister without any saves, you will get 6 after 6 after 6 saving with them. And then, of course, get 1 after 1 after 1 with every shot they take. I mean, you'd miss anyways because they have very bad shooting if you have a base level model, but somehow it works that way. Maybe that's just my experience, but it's been so many times that I'm kind of freaked out by it. It's actually weird.
Remember the warp, the demons from the warp? Well, the warp also manifests in your mind. All of your emotions, negative and positive, go through the warp. It's the immaterium, the place of all things. So if you are that mentally fortified, that mentally strong, you can stave off horrifying demons.
And what he's saying is the traditional way to look at faith. It's just warp power directed by people who have belief as opposed to psychic power to destroy the enemies with. And then the people who had both faith and the psychic power. That's why everything from Pariah Nexus on is so unique, because it decouples the warp from the Sororitas, from the Sisters of Battle. And everything he's saying is not wrong, but we also don't know if it's right anymore. It feels like it changed. It has changed. Some writers are treating it as if it changed. But also, it could be that it didn't change, and that one writer did their own thing, and GW let it go because, it adds ambiguity. Let's go for it. I hate how that last part is a joke, but also at the same time, I'm kind of considering that to be the actual reason for most of the changes and things they do in lore.
And all these girls, not a crack. Not a crack in that mental armor. Now, as much as
one exception.
And as much as their models look a lot like Ongo Gabloglian,
I don't even know what Danny DeVito's doing. I'm assuming it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And does anyone know if I can get a model of Danny DeVito's head and just get a bunch of them? I'm not saying I want to make an entire sister army of Danny DeVito clones, but that sounds kind of funny as hell, and I kind of want to do it now.
Yeah, which I can't unsee anymore. I gotta say, I love their design. I think they're extremely cool.
Can't
they're
paint hair to save my
another army
life.
that I'm currently collecting. They just released a whole new line of figures very recently, and they look...
Okay, so if he's talking about them coming out very recently, I wish there was a date on that other than just randomly 3 years. Because this came out before Pariah Nexus, so he might even be talking about right before those revelations came out. I don't know. I don't know why I'm so hung up on that either, now that I think about it. That's weird. But I'm weird in general, so let's go with it.
Wonderful. Everything from Celestine, the living, literally undying saint, from
she
the
dies, it gets better.
Of Saint Catherine, which
Great
is
model.
literally a funeral procession.
I heard it's good.
As a model, those organ tanks I mentioned earlier.
They got better too.
This is the most over-the-top badassery in a lot of the Warhammer universe, and goddamn it, is it over the top. But Sisters of Battle are so cool. While I'm a guardsman at heart, this is such a cool faction. By Bolter Shell, Flamer Burst, and Melta Blast, the mutant, the heretic, and the traitor alike are cleansed of their sin of existence. So it has been for 5 millennia, so shall it be.
I think I should recognize
until
that
the
too.
end of time. And speaking of burning demons.
And that's what we're going to call this one. And I'm going to say it's because we got to the Grey Knights, and I want to save that for next time to really enjoy it. And not because I had someplace I had to be 5 minutes ago and I didn't leave on time. So I'm kind of fucked up because I decided to spend too much time playing Genshin Impact this morning and didn't pay attention to the clock until it was too late. And I'm going to completely not acknowledge that as the reason things happened. Even if it's completely true. Because it's not. What I will say, though, is I am so tempted to get more sisters. Now, I don't even have any models I'm specifically looking for, except for novitiates, who I cannot seem to find. I don't know where they're from. It's probably a Kill Team box. If that's the case, that would suck. If you know where I can find them, let me know. And if it is a Kill Team box, well, that sucks. Because I got a Sisters Army. I'm actually working on painting one right now. And by working, I mean it's very much a work in progress. If you can get a good zoom in here. Oh, you can actually sort of see that I have not painted this model. Yeah. Oh, there you go. I just painted the head white because I'll do the hair and the face later. I'm just working on some basic touches. I literally just started. It's definitely not the reason I'm late getting to anything today, but it's completely the reason I'm late to getting to things. That and Genshin Impact. I have so many hobbies. They're a problem. But I like this because Bricky's going into a lot of detail. And we're seeing a lot of the easy impressions for how things work. And he's not wrong about almost anything he said here. I disagree on some points, the evil thing, because I just don't believe that. It's mostly evil, but not all evil. I think it was initially intended to be solid evil, everyone is evil, but I don't think it is that way anymore. But more importantly, this was a lot of really cool stuff. I didn't know that much about the Mechanicus because they freak me out. And I never am going to get them because of the reasons I mentioned about them being super spindly and breaking if I look at them. Yeah, it's a problem. I am a complete klutz. I will fall on models. That's why I play a lot of Custodes, even if they suck right now, because I can drop them and kick them against the wall, and I might need to repair the wall before them. Depending on the model, that is actually something I've done multiple times. The base level Custodes, if you build them tight, without any really crazy spindly stuff, are very sturdy. And when he gets to them, I'm going to geek out because I really like them. And I'm also trying very hard right now not to buy more sisters, and it's tempting. But I'm going to ignore that. More importantly, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. If there's something I said that you think is an absolute hot take, let me know, because I actually like talking to people and hearing other ideas. And I'm sure that won't happen because I have said nothing in this video that might be controversial. Yeah. Just waiting it out because there's nothing that's going to be said there. And if you believe that, thank you, but you're wrong. Either way, see you guys in the next one. Adios.